I'm here with Chris Hertz, Vice President of Sales Cloud Security at Rapid7. Hey, Chris, welcome.
Hey, Doug. Really great pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Hey, we got a fun topic to chat about today on what is a two-part video series, and that is cloud native security. I've always enjoyed chatting about the topic with you. And boy, there have been some real shifts around cloud native security we're going to get into. But, we should probably start with the definition because, boy,
Yeah.
there is no shortage of ambiguous terms in the cybersecurity market. So I think we should sort of ground our conversation on what we think about cloud native security. Chris, let me offer this up and see if this sort of lands with you. When I think of cloud native applications, it's really those applications that are based on a microservices architecture, deployed on elastic infrastructure, and just as important, they're integrated, delivered, and secured via continuous integration and continuous delivery processes that are associated with the DevOps methodology.
I,
That term sort of generally work for you?
I think you've nailed it. And I think to your point, it is broadly a cultural shift as well around agility, right? So it is a movement towards the agile development. And one of the great things about the cloud native architecture is that really it lends itself to developers being able to move very quickly and to do so in very agile ways.
Glad you brought agility into the discussion here right at the get-go. I mean, that's obviously the business outcome here, but it's also sort of the dovetail counterpart to DevOps, right? Is agile software development having that sort of highly iterative approach. So when I think about secure DevOps initiatives as a means and set of processes to secure cloud native applications, the notion of shift left comes to mind. Shift left has often been associated with, sort of that development phase of the software development lifecycle. But I think of shift left going all the way into the planning phase and the agile software development phase, and starting with defining cybersecurity user stories that get prioritized and implemented for future sprint. But I also think we got to go all the way through the continuum and really for it to be sort of full application lifecycle. So don't get me wrong, the dev phase is super important, but so is integration, delivery, and runtime. How do you think about the notion of shift left, another ambiguous term, right, in the context of cloud native security?
Yeah, I think you nailed it when you're talking about full stack, full life cycle, right? There's a few things that come to mind when I think about cloud native security. One, we've democratized access to technology, really, right? That's what cloud has provided us. And that means that we now have many more participants in the provision and configuration and management of the infrastructure than we've ever had before. What that also means, though, is that we have to think through how we democratize security, because it's no longer something that can happen in sort of a command and control capacity. We have to go back and say, how do we make everybody throughout the supply chain participant in the security process at all stages? And what that means is really rethinking about where, when, how, and who we're interacting with. And so to me, it's shift left is almost an old-fashioned term, because we just have to think contextually. How do we align security at every step of the way to make sure that we are, again, delivering the right information at the right time to the right people with the right context so that they can be participants in the security process? Because frankly, we need to empower everybody who is part of this process. And to me, that's really the definition of cloud native security, is how do we take this? And by the way, blend this all back, again, take the entirety of the picture, collapse it into context around the application, because that's what the developers really care about, right? Is how is my application at risk, and how can I go and be participant in the process to make it less risky?
Yeah, I really appreciate the focus on organizational dynamics and sort of this cultural shift where cloud native security really is a team sport, so that security is incorporated every step of the way. So it becomes an intrinsic feature of a cloud native application, not an afterthought.
That's right. Yeah, and I do think that, again, going back to what you said, it's that full life cycle, but it's
Mhm.
also full stack. So it's taking all the context. So we think about, what does that mean? Well, I need to know about application security, right? Traditional AppSec. I need to be thinking about vulnerability management. I need to be thinking about Kubernetes security. I need to be thinking about cloud configuration. All those things, though, need to be brought together. They need to converge. And I need to be able to present a view of risk to my developers in a consumable fashion, and provide them with guidance on how to comply with the guardrails that are in place. And this is quite difficult, because it really relies on us to know who the responsible party is for us to communicate. And so that's a huge part of it, right? Is how do we find the right people and how do we get in front of them at the right time? How do we deliver them the right context, the right information, and how do we give them guidance that's actionable? I mean, it's a super challenging, difficult problem that requires just enormous, I think, cultural and process and people and systems change.
Chris, I love the fact that you brought in the notion of full stack as another dimension in addition to full lifecycle for cloud native security, because we're going to touch upon that in our next video. So thanks for joining everybody and stay tuned for the second part of this two-part series.